Kol Yisrabus Hazmanis. I'm not sure that's Yisrabus. I think it's Tarbus. Kol HaTarbus Hazmanis. All the civilization of the time. I don't know if it means temporary or the time. It's built on the foundation of the power of imagery. And this is, of course, very relevant to tomorrow night, which is Chanukah. So all the any civilization which is not eternal but rather temporal is built on the Koach HaMedameh. Zoy Mareshes go Rolam Halili. This is the pagan heritage or destiny, the destiny of the pagan heritage of the civilized nations or nations of civilizations, which are seized with the power of imagination. Shemenu ba hispaskus hayofi agufani befal of Tir Masi, from which came the development of physical beauty in practice and action and um, in Tzir Masi is interesting, but I think it means in aesthetics, in the way they depicted it in art forms.
Mm.
The power of imagery continues to get more sophisticated. And with it are become more sophisticated, but both the practical and experimental sciences, and based on the rise of the power of imagination, and its seizing of life, the light of the intellect is removed. All of the world thinks that its entire happiness has to do with the development of the power of imagination, which is it seems to be the opposite of science. But I think what he's saying is that there is this certain measure of creativity which goes into both the world of aesthetics and the world of science, and this creativity seems to be the that which the world thinks is the ideal for its pursuit and for its happiness. These matters escalate so that the muscles of intellect, that are in the spirit of chachma in secular areas, all of them are going are driven towards this creativity, which has to do with imagination. The poets and the artists of prose, the storytellers, hadramuturiim, those who are involved in drama, all of those which are involved in the fine arts. They take place at the head of the civilization. So this is really a fascinating idea, which is certainly true, that the people who are at the head of a civilization in our day and age are the people who are mostly the celebrities who are able to represent the power of imagery, theatrical or other form of imagery, basically the entire
Creativity.
what?
Creativity.
And creativity, yes. But so all these things, he says, are the power of medameh, of dimyon. The philosophia posachas v'tzlas, and philosophy, which he says is not the same thing as the science, is it just limps along, and has no standing. Because pure intellectual activity is ever diminished. And so again, I find it fascinating that he lumps together theater and fine arts with science. I can't really get over it. With science, experimental and practical, and says all of those are superficial, have to do with creativity, and they don't have to do with internal logic and internal thought. And
I would just mention that it's interesting to me that someone that learned in Volozhin would be familiar with all of these terms for arts and all these different creative type activities in such a highfalutin fashion. He seems to be very, familiar with these types of terms. I would
it's
seem
true.
unusual to me.
Could be that he picked it up in London during the war.
Ah, okay.
Because London was the center of civilization at the time.
Yes, that's
Right.
true.
So it's
The,
possible that he picked it up.
the
Um,
waning center of civilization.
yes, but still, yes, on its way out, but still, it was a, yeah. Although I think London today would still say that, that they are that Broadway notwithstanding, they are the, the at the head of the performing arts. Uh, really, to me, it doesn't. I don't couldn't care less. But in any event,
I mean, yeah, I'm not into that.
yeah. But in any event, there is this idea, I think, which he probably could have picked up there, and
Yeah.
so and since there's a lack of intellect, and again, pure intellect, and the spirit of wisdom, as opposed to applied sciences, kain chutzpah yaske. So there's more chutzpah in the world. The chachma sofrin tisrach. And the chachma of the Sofrim, which means the abstract wisdom, certainly of Judaism, uh, is uh, is is found wanting. Literally, it's repugnant in people's eyes. Reichad Imasu is Mishnah and the Psaita. Those who fear sin repudiated. Vamisay Ne'adaris, truth is lacking. Upnei Adarkim Ne'akelev, all this in the Mishnah and Psaita, and the face is arranged like the face of a dog. Also, Adinos Hapnimis, that internal refinement. Haba Miruach HaChachma, which comes from the spirit of wisdom. Holechas and Imogo is going and becoming and melting and being sapped away. I should point out again, getting back to the science thing, is in line with the idea that Chazal have Tov Shabarofim Legehenim. In other words, there's an idea in certain types of practical wisdom, even medicine, that its pursuit leads to arrogance and a sense of supremacy and overconfidence and cockiness and so on and so forth. And that I don't know that philosophers are any better intrinsically, but Rav Kook is saying that if you had, in theory, a philosopher who was devoted to the true love of wisdom, then it's possible that they would at least be more involved in the quest for Hashifa L'Ruchnis Vatzilus, the quest for spiritually and nobility of character. Lidvekus Elokis, for to cling to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, L'am beyond to a higher world. L'zoch Musar, to refine the Musar, Burom Toroso, in the height of its purity, L'tura Muskolus Mitzad Atzmo Nitziyusam, and to the depiction of the logical constructs in and of themselves and for their eternity, for the eternal meaning. All of that is Nasi's Chazonia Car. All of that has become a rare vision. And of course, it relates directly to Chanukah because the idea of Chanukah, the Greeks were the paragons of the pursuit of the aesthetic and the physical and the theater, the theater, of course, as well, drama and comedy and tragedy and all these things, which he's saying, although they might have some superficial attraction and allure, do not represent a profound drive to, in fact, elevate the person. Now, I don't think the philosophy in ancient Greece necessarily had, by and large, that kind of pursuit either. But I guess Rav Kook would say that Plato and Aristotle at least paid lip service to the idea of the refinement of character. especially Aristotle, which of course relates to the Rambam in Deos and the pursuit of ethics. So whether they themselves were ethical or whether they just studied ethics, those are two different things. But Rav Kook is saying that there is some level of ethical pursuit in philosophy which does not exist in the applied sciences and certainly does not exist in all the other areas of civilization. And I'm assuming that Rav Kook, like the Rambam, would ever distinguish in our repudiation of Greek culture between the Greek culture and Greek philosophy. And the Chazal even repudiate something which is called Chachma Yavanis, but it's not philosophy. It's something which is either some cipher language or some superficial type of sophistry, which was something which Chazal found repugnant. So this idea of the connection of all these things becomes all these hard things becomes a rare pursuit. And to that same extent, klalo, which applies to the world in general. The Am Yisrael is becoming a problem as well. The pursuit of Ruach HaKodesh and Avas Tov Ruach Pnimi, the pursuit of the divine spirit and the love of Torah with an inner spirit, for Anus Atzmis and independent freshness. Shalayadus Ne'amona true trustworthy Judaism is disappearing. Ulam Shalay Ruach Megusham. In the world, there's a materialistic spirit. Eloch Eretz Shemachet, and of course, one knows that today's the obviously going back to science. Most of the pursuit of science today is science which is for consumerism or for profit, as opposed to
Yeah,
for any higher goal of some sort.
right.
And
It's all about having a patent, making money.
right, and certainly the people at the cutting edge of science, like Elon Musk, are people who are bereft of almost any ideals. So,
His factory is 3 miles from my house.
oh yeah,
It's
okay,
the largest commercial building in the world.
wow. Well, at least they provide employment. So,
Yeah. Wow. Oh, you should see what's out there.
yeah. So, Elach Eretz Shemakech Nar. Woe to you, land whose king is a fool. V'sarach b'boker yochelu, and your the nobility, your officials spend the morning eating. Amnam kol zehu yesod eitzah me'rachok. But he says there's a silver lining to all this. All this is a foundation of which is a counsel from a distance, from on high. Atzas Hashem ilashlimus koacham adameh. It's Atzas Hashem to actually bring to some higher level this to perfection this power of imagery of creativity. Neshu basis bari, because it can be a healthy basis. L'ruach elyon sheyofi olav, to a higher spirit which will then appear upon it. V'toch elyon shel tfisa ruchanis shekon Yisroel, and out of the loftiness or the superiority of the spiritual perspective, which was first comes to Am Yisrael, and the power of imagery was compelled, I guess, initially when the Am Yisrael had brought this tfisa ruchnis to the world years ago. So the power of the imagery itself became weakened and dissolved. And that's a problem because there is a Ruach HaKodesh is a spirit ultimately which requires creativity as well. And the harsh truth of Torah sometimes in the past, evidently, caused that capacity to be creative in speaking spirituality to be diminished. And the koach hamadame is the koach of nevuah. This is well known that imagery and prophecy go together. And imagery, the Rabbi Ari Kaplan writes about this a great deal, about how the power of imagery is what you develop appropriately in order to accomplish spirit prophecy. So this idea is that evidently, the if we could put it in a stark metaphor, the being the Litvisha uh, uh, analytical approach crushed any Hasidic uh, 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 spiritual quest, and it basically is this idea, that well, is it real? Is it proper? Is it correct? Or is it just self uh, self what's the word?
Self-aggrandizement.
Not self-aggrandizement. It's delusion.
Ah,
Is a delusion, right? It's the critique of whether it's real, and the answer is the Kohen Dame. You're right. Very often it's not real, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be using it for some purpose. So the uh, and so eventually the Ruach HaMadame will come back. Obviously, when the Ruach comes back, the Ruach HaMadame must come back. And this comes back through Mashiach. And the Ruach HaMadame, which has since the beginning of Bayesheni, when the Ruach was um, went extinct, has been dormant, comes back to Mashiach. So now somehow the Ruach HaMadame has to have a way to itself become more powerful in order in order for it to become completed in all if its descriptive qualities or its descriptions, but I think all of its descriptive qualities. In other words, there is this idea that the power of imagery and even the very mainstream Judaism avails itself of power of imagery nowadays in various different forms, including the internet and such like. So that it's necessary to have it in order to be able to try and incorporate it in some holy way. Then it's going to be appropriate throne, correct throne for the Ruach Hashem Elyon. And it'll be prepared to receive the Ruach HaKodesh to devolve upon it. Ruach Hashem, Ruach Chachma Bina, a Ruach which is not just the spirit, but it's full of Chachma Ubina. It's not just the Ruach, but it's Eitzel Gvura Ruach Das V'Yiras Hashem. So eventually the Ruach, which seems to be sometimes antithetical to Chachma Bina, the Ruach seems to be sometimes antithetical to Ruach and Gvura. The Ruach, which sometimes seems to be antithetical Das and Yiras Hashem, has to be able to work together with them and be confused with them in order for things to work properly. So I want to point out that this is something which I'm totally incapable of, because but I say this all the time. I'm totally incapable of meditation and of proper use of imagery. I think it's a genetic defect, being half of German, half of Lithuanian extraction, having absolutely no power of imagination. But the Rabbi Ari Kaplan has a whole discussion in Jewish meditation about contemplating candles and using one's imagery to see um, uh, the different colors,
yes.
burning flame, and contemplating them and using that in order to uplift oneself. And I can't even relate to that.
No, it's not for me. That's not for me.
Right. But I think Rav Kook could. I think Rav Kook could. And I think that that's something which is referring to. In other words, there is some use of the power of imagination and contemplation, which which is used too much by Avodah Zarah and by other forms of, like you said before, tarbut zmanit, as opposed to being used for permanent and nitzchius and ruchnius. And this idea, I think, of the Ner Chanukah, right? She'en lo reshus lishtamish b'hem elo liroisam bilvad, right? Not even supposed to learn by them. You're supposed to look at them. I think that as a person is supposed to be able, and again, not me or you, because we're obviously both defective human beings, but the people who have that capacity are able to use them in order to perceive something higher and more transcendent.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now you watch. You're going to try it. You're going to see it works for you.
No, no. I've done all that type of stuff. It's not, no. I mean, I'm an imaginative, I have a good imagination and I'm a good storyteller. I'm quite imaginative in my thinking but contemplation, no.
Okay.
I have to be more, I have to have something much, much, much more concrete.
Concrete. Yeah.
When,
Okay.
when I when I daven at the Chabad, so I daven very loud because, well, I'll tell you why. So after davening one Shabbos, so one of the Hasidim, he says, "Oh, Dan, you were so into the kedusha and the kedusha of the davening, the kedusha of Shabbos. I can see you felt it. It was, I said, you have me completely wrong. I said, if I don't scream and shout the davening, I said, then I'm thinking about Wall Street, the New York Mets. What am I going to have for lunch? What do I have to do tomorrow? I said, the only way I can focus is if I say it pretty loud so that I have to concentrate and don't make mistakes and embarrass myself in front of the whole tzibur. He says, yeah, but Dan, I saw that in the middle of davening, you were laughing and you had like a smile. He says, what was that about? You must have felt the holiness. I said, no, I was laughing because I realized that because I'm davening right now, loudly, I'm not sitting in the back row talking Lashon Hara with some of the other guys. I said, that's why I was laughing. The only thing stopping me is the fact that I'm forcing myself to sit here and daven loudly and focus. I said, my mind, it's in the street, it's in the gutter. The only thing that I can do is force myself to learn out loud and daven out loud and do all the things that I've been taught in the yeshiva to help me. I says,
Okay.
he says, yeah, but Hashem is everywhere. There's so much kedusha. I said, not in my world.
Uh-huh.
I said, my world is not filled with kedusha.
Right.
My world is filled with other things, and to get me away from those things, I have to do exercises, physical
Right.
things, to force myself to change my
Yes.
behavior.
Well, I'm with you, but because we have to try, we have to admire people like Rav Kook, who I think we're able to do things which we can't.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Have a lichtige Chanukah.
Amen, amen. B'chein lamar, you too. Freilich
Take
Chanukah.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.